Welcome back, mamas. Today, we are going to be talking about preparation and planning and how important that can be to our days going the way that we want them to our lives being as fulfilled as we want them to be. Sometimes we can think that we do not have the time to prepare or to plan, but that is a big misconception, and I'm going to tell you why. So let's get into it. Do you wish you had control of your days, that you had a rhythm, but instead feel overwhelmed, scattered, and like there's never enough time? You're in the right place. I'm Danielle, a recovering workaholic, wife, and stay-at-home mom of 2 girls. I've learned how to reclaim my time and find purpose and freedom so I can be present with my kids and feel like myself again. Here, we embrace where we are, but we don't stay there. So if you're ready to trade the chaos for clarity, the guilt for grace, and the endless to-do list for aligned flow, grab the kiddos a snack and toss in that laundry because I know you're multitasking, and let's do this because your time, your purpose, and you matter. Okay, mamas, so today we are going to be talking about preparing, about planning, how these two things go hand in hand. And this is all because last week, so I think I've told you before that I have this calendar. I got this calendar. It's like a magnet. I stick it on our back door, the door that we go in and out of the house where our cars are. And it is in the laundry room. And it's a magnetic calendar. It's very simple. It's a dry erase. So every single week I update this with what we have to do for the week. You know, Michaela's gets a blue marker. Gabriella's events get a purple marker. My stuff gets a green marker. And then if we have things as a family, I put those in usually red. So we know what's going on. We know what's going on in the week, and you can just see it as you walk out the door in the morning, in the afternoon, whenever it is that you're in the laundry room, you can see it, right? And it is so very helpful. It takes me literally about 5 minutes to do because, I know where all of the plan, this is not like my day planner. This is not like where I plan out everything that I have to do. This is just like an overview glance of our week. But I did not do that last week because we were so incredibly busy. I didn't take the time to do it. We had something pretty much every minute of the day, especially on the weekend, which typically I take Sunday is when I prep this for the rest of the week. And our Sunday was packed full. And Gabriella started to not feel well on Sunday evening, and she wound up staying home from school on Monday. And so it was just, everything was out of sorts, right? And I didn't take the time to do this. And it really had a huge impact on our week. Like, I didn't say anything about it until Friday because I thought I was the only one that was affected by it. And I kept thinking, I can just look in my planner. I can just, look here or there. But when I finally said it out loud over the weekend, my husband was like, yeah, it really threw me off that I couldn't look and see what was going on. And this is so simple, right? It's a simple step that can take a lot of pressure, a lot of overwhelm. It can take a lot of stress off the rest of your day. I am going to read a quote from Benjamin Franklin that says, "By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail." By failing to prepare, so me not preparing for the week by just taking that 5 minutes to write everything down on our calendar, I was preparing to fail, right? I was preparing to fail for the week. There were things that fell through the cracks. I was late picking up Gabriella. Like, there were a lot of things that happened because I didn't write them on that calendar, and it was living in my head. It was living in my head, and that is a dangerous place to live because there's so much going on that one day she has to be picked up at 3, one day it's 3:30. It's different on different days, but when I can see it in front of me, it is so helpful. And I know that I am preparing to fail if I do not take the time to do that. But it sometimes it just falls through the cracks. And then I think, oh, I'm going to be okay. Right. But I just want to stress that we need to, as moms, it's more important than ever, especially when we have so much going on. We are going into the holiday season, right? The holiday season is already upon us. If you're anything like me, November 1 starts and I'm already thinking about Christmas. I love Christmas so much. And I do not want to go about my days and my weeks without planning and preparing because we get busy, right? And I don't want you to do that either because you think you don't have the time or you think you don't have the energy. I'm going to read another quote. This one is from Abraham Lincoln, and it says, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first floor sharpening the axe." He said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first four sharpening the axe." What he's saying by that is that the planning, the preparation is just as important. If he doesn't prepare that axe in the way that it needs to be prepared, then when he goes to chop down that tree, it's likely going to take him more than 6 hours because the axe was dull. Right? He's going to spend the first 4 hours making sure that that axe is in the best shape that it can be, the sharpest, so that the last 2 hours, he knows that he's going to be able to get that tree down because he has taken the time to prepare. Now, in this case, it's like, okay, it took him 4 hours to prepare the axe, right? And then 6 hours is all he had. So it took that long to prepare. Like, no, it does not have to take that long to prepare, right? I think the whole point of what he's saying is that the preparation is that important. Right? The planning and the preparation is that important. It's so important that he would take the first 4 hours of the only six that he had to cut down that tree and he would prepare. He would do what he knew needed to be done so that he could execute the task at hand, right? Which was cutting down a tree. But in our case, it is living our days not in chaos. It's living our days not spent in overwhelm. It's living our days in a way that feels manageable instead of getting to the end of the day and feeling like we are exhausted, we are spent, we are burnt out, we can't make another decision, right? Because when you take the time to plan on the front end and prepare for your week and for your day, you take so much stress off of yourself. Stress that you may not even realize that you are carrying, right? Because you didn't take the time to plan. And planning, I know I've talked about this so many times, and we'll get into kind of what I do to plan for my week and different things on a different day, or you can go back and listen to a previous episode about that. But I think that the planning, no matter what it looks like, right, for you is so important. Just taking a minute to sit there and reflect on what you have to do this week. What are the things that need to be done? What are, what I'm going to say, what are your top priorities for the week, right? What are the things that are non-negotiables that you're like, okay, what do I need to do this week in order for me to feel like I have accomplished something? Or if this doesn't get done this week, then I know it is going to cause all of these problems, right? Like if I wait until the 11th hour to do such and such, it is going to cause all of these problems. Like for me, last week, I had mentioned to my oldest, we were going to a wedding. One of her friends was getting married. Well, not her friends, her friends' parents were getting married. And we had been invited to the wedding. And I had been saying to her, since we were invited, what do you want to wear? Because I knew she was going to want to wear something special, right? Like I knew this was one of her best friends. It was her parents' wedding. Like she was going to want to wear something special. And so I kept asking her about it, but I didn't ever take the time to sit down with her and say, okay, we need to go shopping. Like let's decide a time to go shopping. We didn't do that, right? And so guess what? We also, when I didn't take my time last week to do my week, I didn't put that wedding on the calendar. And guess what happened? All of a sudden, at the end of the week, I was like, oh my gosh, Gabriella, do you know what you're going to wear to this wedding? And she was like, I was thinking we would go shopping on Saturday. Well, the wedding was on Saturday. And so that sent us into the day we had to find something that day, right? If we had just prepared ahead of time, we would not have to be in a rush to find her something. It wouldn't have been as stressful for me. It may not have been as stressful for her as well. Like, I don't think it was very stressful for her as it seemed like it was for me. I was trying not to show it, but I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to find her something. And I probably paid more than I would have normally paid just to ensure that we found her something that she loved for the wedding, right? But we could have prevented that if we had taken the time, if I had taken the time the weekend before to say, oh, that wedding is Saturday. So I need to take her after school one day to go shopping and to see if we can find anything. That would have alleviated that stress that I should have been doing something else on my Saturday instead of, and the whole thing happened when we were trying to go shopping. It was super duper stressful. I'll save you that story maybe for another day because it was a pretty funny one, but funny now, not funny in the moment, right? One of those type of stories. But it is so true that just that 5 minutes that I could have taken last Sunday would have prevented a lot of stress on my week, a lot of stress that were in certain days because I didn't write that stuff on the calendar. And I think that we miss this as moms. We miss it because we think we don't have the time. We think maybe we don't need to, right? Like I don't have that many things on the calendar that are set in stone, but you do have some, right? You do have some places you need to be, and you do have some things that you probably need to get done this week. And so you might as well write them on the calendar, write them on a day. If you do not have a specific thing, like I know I have to take Michaela to dance one day and I know I have to pick her up at this time. If you don't have specific times for something, you can still write like, I need to, get this gift on this day, right? You can still write that down so that when you look at that day, you're like, okay, I'm going to get the gift this day. And then if I don't, I can push it back, but I know I have to get it before Sunday for the party or whatever, right? And so you make sure that you have things prepared before you get into your day and before you just start going about your day in such a way where things crop up that may seem important, but they truly aren't, right? They truly aren't important and they aren't your highest priority, but you wind up spending time there if you don't take the time to prepare. I have a quote from Stephen Keeg here that says, proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. Proper planning and preparation, that's a lot of P's, right? Proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. I love the alliteration, right? But also, this is a very true quote because when we prepare and when we plan, then our performance can be so much better. And when we don't, we can get caught up in the day. We can get caught up in all the things that happen in a given day, like what happened to me on Saturday, right? And if I would have prepared and planned, what happened on Saturday would not have been as big of a deal because I didn't have this thing that I had to get done before something that night. I would have prepared in advance and I wouldn't have had a poor performance. It was a poor performance in my mind of what happened that day because I would have prevented that by preparing. And I want that for you guys. I want you to know what that feels like. I remember when I didn't know what it felt like, and it kind of felt like I still prepare. I still know what's going on in my day and in my life, but I didn't take the time to do that last week. And I was very much reminded of how I used to feel when I didn't take the time to prepare. Just that one thing was able to like rock me a bit. Right. And I like to do this like a week at a time. I plan for probably like a quarter. I also plan for like a month. Sometimes I make a plan for like a year out, or if you're talking about like a vacation or things like that. But I like to keep it small. I like to plan my week in such a way where it can be super fluid. I like to take a look at my whole week map out my priorities, decide what is important and what has to get done, and then know when those things are going to happen. And if they don't happen when I want them to happen, where they could move or shift, right? And so I design my week in such a way that when things come up and when the day gets the best of me, I can pivot. Right? There are certain things I can't move. I have to go pick up, somebody at dance or somebody at cheer or somebody at a practice or whatever it is. But I can move some of the things that are a high priority that need to get done this week. If the day gets out of control, I can move those to a different day. And that is the flexibility and the peace of mind that it allows when you take the time to do this preparation and planning on the front end, right? But I like to keep it little and bite-sized pieces. And I still like to take the time at the beginning of every day and look at it and say, okay, so what happened yesterday, right? What happened yesterday? What didn't get done? What needs to get done today? And then how are we going to tackle that for the day? Right. And so that's when you can pivot. That is when you can make these decisions on whether or not you need to shift some things in your day. And again, it's about taking that time, but keeping it in small, bite sized chunks where it doesn't have to take up that much time and energy. I like to prepare for my week on Sundays. The calendar, the magnetic calendar is just one little piece, but I like to also prepare for my whole week in my planner so that I know what is going on or what needs to happen within the week. And so I like to keep it small and bite sized, but it only takes me now that I've been doing this probably between 10 and maybe max 20 minutes to do this on a Sunday for my week. And it makes the week so much easier. Confucius has a quote that says, "A man who does not plan long ahead will find trouble at his door." And I like to say, it doesn't have to be that long ahead, right? But a week is a time frame that we can plan for, right? We know what we have going on leading into a week, at least for the most part, right? Like I know this week I have a cheerleading competition on Sunday, and going into the week, I don't know what time that is still, right? But I do know it's on Sunday. So I have to plan and allow for that to happen on Sunday. If you're talking about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, there are certain things that you have to or you will know in advance, but there are many things that you don't. So I like to keep it small and manageable. And then that way it also doesn't take up too much of your time when you're trying to lay out your week and it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And I promise you, it can save you so much time, so much energy, so much burnout, decision fatigue. Like these are all things that start to happen to us when we try to keep everything in our head, when we do not have a plan, when we have not prepared. And this is what happens a lot of times as moms because we feel like we don't have the time to do these things. It winds up working against us. It was something that was a mindset of mine that I had to really work on because that is exactly how I felt. I felt like I did not have the time to plan or prepare. And it was just a lie I was telling myself that was keeping me stuck in this cycle of overwhelm. And you do not have to live there. I do not want you to live there. These are the things we work on in my Prioritize with Purpose. In my coaching, I have a prioritization clarity call that you can schedule with me if you just go to prioritizewithpurpose.com. Prioritizewithpurpose.com/coaching will take you right there to the page where you can sign up for one of those calls with me. And we will start getting you on track for fulfilling days, for how you want your life to look, for how you even start to do this, right? Because I know when I was sitting where you might be sitting right now, I did not feel like I could do it alone. I did not know where to start. I did not feel equipped to handle, what I needed to handle, much less adding in these things that felt a little foreign to me, these things that I just wasn't sure how to do. And so I now know the process, right? Like I laid it out like a roadmap of walking you through the steps to help you figure out what your priorities are. You might not even really understand what they are outside of your day to day and what you know is most important to you. Have you taken the time to really look at what your core values are. What are your strengths? How are you using those to be the best mom you can be, to be fulfilled? Because a lot of times, I know if you're anything like me, you want more for yourself, but you don't know what that more looks like or how you would even begin to get that because you feel like you don't even have time for what you've got on your plate right now. So, how could you have more? And what would that even look like? And so, we uncover those things. Time management is a big piece of your life, and I can help you with that as well. So, go to prioritizewithpurpose.com. If you still have questions, please schedule a discovery call with me. It is free, it's one on one. It will help you decide if this is the right path for you. And I would love to help you on this path. We will go through it together. But I just want you to know that you can plan, that it is worth it to plan and to prepare, and that it can save you so much time, so much energy, and can be the biggest lifesaver when it comes to having your day feel like it's in your control again, right? Like you are knowing what you're doing today and why, right? Because you might be spinning your wheels not knowing what you're doing or why, right? You might just be kind of going through life instead of living it to the fullest, right? So I want to challenge you this week to try it. Even if it's just, laying everything out on a piece of paper that is labeled Monday through Sunday and just kind of laying what you have to do, you have to do, list it all out, and then try to lay it on certain days and take a look at it and see if that doesn't alleviate some stress and pressure. When you list out all of your to-dos, sometimes it can feel really overwhelming, but I want you to know that all of those do not have to be done this week. And sometimes when you really look at it, I know at least for me, it did seem overwhelming, but when you break it down and think about all of the things that you actually do in a day, you would be surprised at how much time you waste trying to figure out what you're doing and then wasting time on things that don't actually matter. So, I would challenge you for that this week is to try to plan, at least lay it out on a calendar at a week's glance or even just for the day, right? Take a baby step and just do it for one day, okay? I'll talk to you on Thursday. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, Mama. If so, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and then hit share and send this to a mom who needs this in her day. I'll meet you right here on Thursday. Keep smiling, y'all.